ADR, General German Novelty Rose Test. Some rosarians and some rose breeders are saying that this is the most toughest, the most vigorous 3-year testing for roses in the world. Olga Carmody with you here today. Thank you for coming to my channel. ADR rose testing. It originated in Germany in 1950s by Wilhelm Kordes, the famous breeder of roses in the world from Germany. And since then, quite a few roses were introduced on the market with that seal of ADR testing approval. So what testing is this? What do people who test roses in Germany in 11 different sites throughout the different regions of Germany, what do they focus on? But first, let's talk about generally how people choose roses. When we look at different catalogs, all those descriptions of roses are telling us that these roses are the best, the most beautiful, the most aromatic, and they will perform great in our gardens. And we do need to rely on the knowledge of local rosarians who grow roses, many roses in their gardens, and they can reliably testify that this particular cultivar would be good to grow in your particular region. And it can be tricky since a lot of rose testing competition sites, programs are situated in different parts of the world, and our growing conditions are so different. So since I am growing roses in United States, in coastal Connecticut, zone 6-7, my reliance on the testing in Germany would be partial, since German climate conditions might be so different than climate conditions in United States. But still, there are many beautiful roses which do have the seal of approval, ADR, and they are wonderful roses to grow around the world. So as I said before, this ADR rose trials began in 1950s, and every year breeders of roses can register rose to be trialed and tested in these ADR trials in Germany. So it is up to the breeder if they want rose to participate in the trial and eventually get or not get the ADR honor badge. So the testing sites, there are 11 testing sites throughout Germany, and the testing is conducted by a group of different associations. The roses are tested for different characteristics, but the biggest among them would be the susceptibility of roses to fungal diseases. And of course, black spot is the most wildly spread disease throughout the world. So roses, which are coming with this ADR approval badge, would definitely will have a great resistance to black spot, probably throughout the world. Another characteristics would be the beauty of blooms, the growing habit, the foliage, the hardiness, how rose is able to sustain hard conditions. And what sometimes I hear from other rosarians, I never experienced it in my garden, but what I hear from other rosarians, that some roses are not roses are generally not tested how they take the wind, the rain, and some roses which have ADR approval might collapse very quickly under the influence of rain and wind. So that just to keep in consideration. But the biggest thing of ADR testing is the disease resistance to fungal diseases. And how is it done? Well, those 11 sites, when rose is registered, they plant those roses in the middle of the field with no irrigation, no supplemental irrigation, no supplemental feeding. Roses are fighting it out under the sun, one against each other, and the group of specialists are observing those roses very carefully and see how they behave in the duration of 3 years. And if the rose shows great survival skills, great disease resistance, without losing the quality of growth shape, the quality of foliage, the quality of blooms. Then the rose is giving a number from 1 to 100. And the 100 number would be the best rose, which shows the best results during trials. But generally, if the rose passes the benchmark of 75%, it is good to have that famous ADR badge. And when rose goes for sale, usually it has that badge to show everybody that this rose was vigorously tried, vigorously grown and observed for 3 years, and it made it to get that honorable badge. So since 1950 up to 2013, around 161 different rose cultivars were tested and were approved. We're giving this badge, ADR badge. And you might say that what happens to roses which with time are not performing very well? They got this badge, but for whatever reason they are not performing well. Well, in that case, if they are not standing up to the standards of ADR strict requirements, that badge is being taken away from the rose. And there are plenty of roses which lost their ADR approval, trial approval. I must say that before 1997, people were able to use chemicals on their roses, and since 1997, all the roses which are tested are without any chemicals. So that also can have the influence on the results of roses before 1997. But again, a rose can lose that approval, ADR approval. And there were plenty of roses who did it. So for your reference, under this video, I'm going to give you several links where you can see all the roses through the years which were approved by ADR, which went through this vigorous process. And there is also a link to the list of roses which lost that ADR approval. Well, you might say, why there are only under 200 roses which have this ADR testing approval, and there are thousands of roses being sold on the market? Well, it is up to the breeder, a rose breeder, if they want to introduce that rose into these very vigorous trials. Well, my love affair with David Austin roses is going strong in my garden. I love those roses. But you might say, why there are not so many David Austin roses which have ADR approval? Well, it's up to the breeder if they want to introduce roses into this very vigorous trial in Germany. And I must say that the earlier introductions by David Austin were beautiful, but they are somewhat, and again, it depends on the rose and on the region, but a lot of them are being taken down from the market due to disease susceptibility. And latest introductions of David Austin roses are getting to be quite healthy, and again, it depends on the rose. In my garden, Olivia Austin, one of the later introductions by David Austin, is extremely healthy. And by now, which is the end of July, I already see black spot here and there in my garden, not on Olivia rose. So it will be only my speculation, but I must say that maybe Olivia Austin is being tried right now in German testing sites, in one of 11 of those 11 testing sites. And of course, the names of roses which are being tested, they are not disclosed. Only when the rose gets this ADR approval, then it's being announced, and roses being sold with that ADR letters after the name of the rose. Should all the gardeners in the world rely on this test, and say to themselves, okay, once this testing is done and rose got the approval, then this rose is good to grow in my garden? Well, I wouldn't say so, since we garden in such different conditions. German climate might be so much different from British climate. Again, United States climate is so different from British climate. So some roses would be performing great, and some roses with the ADR badge would be just okay, and it would be not just disease resistance, it would be for other different reasons. The roses which refuse to open up the blooms, roses which are sensitive to wind and rain. There are many different reasons why roses would refuse to perform in our gardens, and they do have high ratings from famous rose trials in the world. So keep that in mind. It is good to have that badge. And again, around 50% of roses which were tested and tried in ADR testing sites come from Kordes. And Kordes is the founder of these trials. But we shouldn't be biased about it. Still, those roses are going through independent testing. And again, it's up to the breeder if they want to put their roses through this vigorous testing. Well, I hope this video was helpful. Please do subscribe and let's explore the world of roses together. Happy gardening!